Okay, what I would like to talk today is about the audio workflows and signal flows that a typical large broadcasting company has to face in order to cope with all the requirements in regard to audio and loudness. As you know, big companies, big broadcasters need to deal with lots of contents and of different channels. So, what are the goals that, as a broadcaster, we would have to face? First of all, we know we have to maintain programs' loudness level consistent, regardless the genre and the length and the style of the content. So we want all content being broadcast at the same loudness level, although we heard some different opinions these days, but that's fair enough. Maybe this is not necessarily the vision that everybody has to share, but I understand this, and as Florian especially said already, having one target for all content is a much more easy way to approach the loudness issue. And then we want to maintain all the different TV channels at consistent levels. This is one of the most important thing to reach. So is the most annoying fact of beside the fact of having commercial sounding too loud, is the fact that when we switch between one channel to another, the listener has to immediately approach the volume control. And then this must work for all audio formats, and that includes 5.1 stereo or even for the mono reproduction. And this has as well to work through TV set or home theater systems. I think that Mark Pascoe from Dolby will mention this, so I will not go into details. And as we have been heard as well, we need to make the loudness range of the content compliant and well translated through the TV listening environment. And this does not have to affect anyhow the audio quality of the program. And as well, from the creative point of view, we have to find solutions that would not modify anyhow the relation and the creative intention, so the way that the producer of the content wanted that program to sound like. And this will definitely lead to a much more improved listening experience and the most possible sounding program through this kind of environment. So we are not necessarily aiming to sound as good as high quality music programs or other content, but definitely within the broadcasting chain, we have to provide the best possible listening experience. And as well, as we all have to deal with money, and money is extremely important these days, we have to please the advertisers. So we have to not put ourselves in the position where they would complain with us. And last but not least, we have to comply with the regulations. This is a very much growing item and issue that day by day is more and more important for more and more countries. Italy has been into this for already 4 years, as well as other countries like UK or Poland or Spain and the US recently, as Mauro will describe in 1 hour. And so this will possibly involve more territories and is raising a more important issue day by day. So far we approached and listed the goals, but this is a very, very challenging issue. Let's see how we have to face it and what the challenge is. We have a various type of content that includes TV production, so programs that have been produced specifically for the TV delivery, and as well we have cinema production, so programs and content that have been produced and crafted within a completely different environment, so the cinema theater. And then we have live feeds. So if for TV and cinema we had pre-recorded material, now we have also to take into account what happens in the live feed. So pre-recorded programs, and they could be either by tape, or by file, more and more. And then we have very long form content as well. We have short programs. And at the end of the chain, we also have very extremely short content like promos, ident, and commercials. And then we have new productions, so programs that have not been done with the previous specifications, but that we have the possibility to produce, design, and craft according to the new loudness standards. But as well, we have archive material. So we have plenty of hours of programs that have been produced during the last 60 years, maybe. And we have as well to make them comply with the new regulations. And we have channels that we are not they are not at all under control, because they are just arriving as they are produced, and we are just rebroadcasting them. But as well, in order to provide a good, pleasant listening experience to the audience, we have to take care of them too. And these programs can be of different format. So they could be either multi-channel, stereo, and they have to be audible through as well simulcasting chain. Not only, we can eventually have more than one language. So very constantly we broadcast in 2 languages in Italy. Switzerland has up to 4 languages, and as well services for visual impaired or voiceover features. But finally, we do have the tools. Tools that are specifically aimed and designed to cope with us for the loudness issue. These tools could be split into 2 main categories that I would mention: the meters, and we have different flavors of meters. So we have the hardware real-time loudness meters, as well as we have software real-time loudness meters. And we have plugin for real-time loudness meters, and we have software on the file-based domain. And the second main category is the one for the processors. This would be the hardware real-time processors or the software real-time loudness processors. And as well, we have servers processors. And finally, also software loudness server processors. So we have all the tools we can imagine and we can use in order to reach our goals. And finally, we have the recommendations. So there are no excuses for not applying the loudness standard. Any of us can choose and pick up the one that better suits for his specific needs. I want to talk a bit more in depth about the broadcast workflow. Let's imagine that we have 2 main areas. We have the sources that I mentioned before, and we have the destinations. Traditionally, the only destination format was the MPEG stereo transmission. And the way we have been using tools in order to create a much more controlled, let's say, audio leveling, was the real-time processor. But we know now, and I think nobody can object that an aggressive use of real-time processor would generate a degradation in the audio quality. So this is already contradicting our goals, one of our goals. Then things have been developing, and we moved from stereo towards a multi-channel transmission. You see those lines are not in one line, and you will realize immediately why. And as well, for the 5.1 transmission, we can, or we could, use a real-time processor for the same need. But this is, as I say, and I'm just saying my own personal opinion. I mean, I understand that there might be other way of approaching this issue, and they might not necessarily be less efficient than mine. But my way and my approach is that we should use the least as possible the real-time processor on transmission. But as well, as I said before, we have to provide for people that are not listening through 5.1 home theater system, the stereo transmission, and for that we use the down mixer. But again, also because the loudness algorithm is slightly different in weighting compared to the normal way of down mixing and the best practice of down mixing for the sound engineers, we might have a slight difference in between the 5.1 normalized programs and the one that is, as a consequence, down mixed through the stereo chain. So again, we would need a real-time processor. But in this case, as far as the original native 5.1 content was already normalized to target, this real-time processor on the downmix chain could have a much softer compression ratio.